Hi, I'm Lori.
And I'm Kevin, and this is No Longer Ashamed.
We are survivors of childhood sexual abuse.
And we're here to share with you that if you're a survivor, you don't have to be alone.
Our logo is a salamander, and the reason is a fire salamander can survive a fire, and you have survived a fire.
We want to help you with your journey to healing and hope.
We are all survivors together, and we walk this journey together, and you are not alone.
By telling our stories, we are hoping that you will have the courage to share your stories as well and find your voice.
Because stories are so important, and for so long I know that I wouldn't tell my story, but when I finally shared my story, that's when I got my freedom.
And this is our journey and your journey to healing and hope. So come with us. I was remembering how important some of the emotional outlets I had when I was going through therapy, and first going through therapy especially. And one of the most important ones was music for me. And I think because most of my life, music's been a really big part of my emotional health. And also, it's where a lot of my values came from before I started becoming a believer and following Christ. I didn't really have a value system other than a lot of the music I listened to. I would get a lot of my values, my beliefs from the music I was listening to. But it was also while I was going through therapy, you go through therapy and you go through this emotional upheaval, and then you got to deal with it after therapy. And how do you deal with it? You still need outlets. At least I still needed an outlet. And for me, music was a huge one because I could dive into music and listen to the songs and feel the emotions that the songs would bring up. And it was okay. It was like a safe place to experience these emotions. And it still is in a lot of ways. It still brings up stuff that sometimes I don't bring up unless there's an outlet, unless there's a reason I'm going through it. So music is still, and I think that's a real important part of going through the process, is having an outlet of some sort that allows you to express your emotions in a safe way. And for some people, it's other things like art or dance or something that allows you to have that emotional experience.
Yeah, and music is so powerful. I mean, how many times do we hear a song from our youth and we can remember where we were when we fell in love with that song, or a song reminds us of our first kiss or something, that happened. So yeah, music is so powerful. And, as you were talking about it, I thought about how easy it is to cut all those things out of our life when we don't feel worthy for enjoyment or for something beautiful, and yet how therapeutic art, music, whatever the modality, whatever it is that brings you joy, because it's with music, you can dance, you can scream, you can sing loud, you can let those emotions out. That's really, really amazing.
Yeah. So for me, it allowed me to express emotions that I was feeling from the music in a way that was safe, but also in a way that allowed me to dive into those emotions that I wouldn't have otherwise. If I wasn't listening to the music, they'd just be bottled up. And for me, a lot of my healing came from just unleashing all this stuff that was in me. And it was, I recognized that for me, and the music was always that way, even before I started going to therapy, but it became even more so as I was going through therapy and I really needed to express stuff. I started understanding that I had all these feelings inside that I never expressed. I never had allowed up, and the music let me do that. So I think for everyone, we have our own outlet. You have to find out what it is that allows you to express that stuff. And there's other ways that I had that gave me chance to go into emotions. I know for a while I liked really disturbing movies, extreme movies. And I'm not talking slasher or really gross movies, but movies that had really, really tense, disturbing situations. And for me, it was a release because it was almost like going through that was familiar because I've been through so many scary, tense things in so many ways that this was like almost comforting because I could watch a movie that was like that, but I wouldn't be affected. I wouldn't be hurt. It wasn't about me. It was about the movie, but it was familiar because it was disturbing. And I could kind of relive stuff that was disturbing without going through the harmful stuff. Kind of strange. Now I don't enjoy those movies as much. I think I kind of got through my system. I got out of my system. And so I still like some of those movies that are kind of weird and out there. Especially I've always liked science fiction movies and completely like the Alien series and all those movies that are they're really amazing, but they're really disturbing. But I think I don't need that outlet as much anymore. So they've kind of fallen back. And I recognize that not everyone likes them. I know Charnel doesn't like those movies very much, so I just don't watch them when she's around. And I don't watch them very much because I don't need that anymore. But I realize sometimes it was comforting to go through things vicariously, so to speak.
Interesting. And that music still plays a huge role in your life.
Oh, yeah. Music has always. And I look at that. It's interesting because I never thought of this before, but I think a lot of my values, a lot of the beliefs I had, the core things that guided me came from the music I was listening to, came from certain parts, certain things that I would hear, how to live your life, so to speak.
That's interesting.
A lot of that came from the music I listened to because I didn't have religion. I didn't have a lot of guidance.
Can you think of anything specifically?
Not really, but I know there are certain times when the music really helped me get through things. And one of the most striking or definitely one of the times I remember the most was when I was going through my divorce and I'd moved out. I was living on my own, had my own place, and I was really depressed. I was working and going to school, and I was doing the crisis center at the same time. So I was just really busy, but I was doing that to keep myself busy because I just had to distract myself from what was going on in my life. A lot of my release, a lot of the relief I got at that time was just going home and listening to really loud music that really resonated with me. And I would just be a mess sometimes. And I'd listen to some songs and I'd just be wiped out afterwards because they were so emotionally draining. I was going through such just sorrow and grief and feeling lost and just searching for something and searching in the music. And some songs would just really affect me. And after I'd listen to them, and sometimes I'd listen to them over and over, and I'd just be wrung out. One time really struck me was in the middle of summer. I had come home from, I don't know if it was from school or from, I think it was a crisis center because it was kind of late. And I just needed to go for a walk just to kind of clear my head, just to kind of get centered. And it was middle of summer. I remember that, but it was nighttime. It was the middle of the night. And I was walking the neighborhood for quite a while and just feeling really depressed. And on my way home, I saw someone who still had their Christmas lights on. And I thought that was so, I don't know how, but it was so comforting to me. And it really struck me. It was like I really needed that. Seeing those Christmas lights just gave me a sense of comfort that I had not had. And I went home and I listened to a Christmas song. And when I saw those lights, it made me think of this one song, and I went home and listened to it, and I was just bawling. I was just crying. All the grief, all the sadness, everything just came out. And when it was over, I was just so comforted afterwards. So, yeah, I think when we go on this process, get into this process of healing, I think it's important to find out what your outlets are that allow you to experience what you need to go through, the emotions that are coming up, the things that you need to, acknowledge and find out what makes it easier for you. For me, it was music primarily. Art and books, reading also help a lot, but music was really the primary one for me.
Yeah, I was an avid reader. And I think when you bring this up, if we think back, to what served us as children, it's probably still the same thing today.
Mm-hmm.
Like if music touched you, we had a bookmobile because we didn't have a library, and we would just load up on books. And especially in the summer, that was my survival. That's how I got by. And sometimes, the books would be fun and funny, but sometimes there were sad stories. And even though I wasn't actively remembering or recognizing that I was in abuse, there was something that connected, would make me feel like they know me, even though it wasn't about me.
Yeah, that's where that sense of connection comes through, and you're allowed to feel the emotions that are coming up because of it.
Which, makes me think of the other side of that, because I work with people who are wanting to live their dream and do the thing, whether it's writing a book, doing a podcast, or reinventing themselves. And often they feel the nudge to create something, but they have so much fear. And I always say someone might be praying for an answer. Like whoever wrote that Christmas song, they did not write it going, is a little boy going to hear this when he sees Christmas lights and it's going to make him feel loved? No, but they felt the prompting to do it. And because they said yes and they did the thing, they put the thing out there or told their story, somebody benefited. And that, whatever that song was, that singer, they'll never know. And yet, because they said yes and did it, a life was touched. And I think when it comes to, especially art, I get a lot of clients that are artists. And the first thing they always say is, well, you can't make money with art. And so we have these belief systems about what we think, about what we want to do. And, I think when we hear how people are touched by art, by stories, by music, that if we have a prompting, if you're a singer or a songwriter and you're prompted to write that song, do that thing, because somebody may be praying for that answer and you don't know.
Yeah, you could be the answer to their prayers. I know. Yeah, that changed my life that night. And I did not expect it. I was just going out searching for relief, but I found something else, something more than just relief. I found
joy.
Yeah, joy. And it was just overwhelming. It was amazing.
Well, and I think it's amazing that you saw that, you felt that feeling, and then you went home to continue it.
Yeah.
Like you went home to did you play the record on an album, on a record player?
Actually, it was a CD, which was great because I could play this. I think I played the song a couple times, but the first time I was a wreck afterwards. It just tore me up. The song was "Oh Holy Night," and it was sung by Ricky Lee Jones.
Oh my goodness!
On a Chieftains album, a Chieftains Christmas album, and something about her voice and that song, when I saw those lights, it just came to me. Yeah, the Spirit just poured out of me when I was listening to it.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
Well, and finding that source, that whatever it is that you find that connection with is, I think, really important when we're going through this, because depending on what your budget and what you're able to do, you might be able to go to therapy once a month, once every 2 weeks, once every week. It depends, but there's going to be times in between when you're still doing the work, but you're doing it by yourself yourself, basically. And if you have an outlet, something that gives you, kind of opens a door to some of your emotions that you haven't looked at.
When I was going through counseling, I lived on an island, so I would ride the ferry over, go to my counselor, and then I'd have to hurry home because I had kids. And I'd sit in the ferry line, and it was almost always a wait, maybe just in the summer, but it felt like it was always a wait.
Yeah.
And I would use that time to process, and I would think, she told me, like, she would tell me something good about me, and I'd be like, what? And then I think, why would she lie to me? She doesn't have any reason to lie to me. So can I really believe her? And, because a lot of therapy is undoing that unworthiness and finding who you are and that you're really a good person, not a terrible person. And I remember getting on the water and just thinking I was so grateful for that ferry ride because, usually it's pretty beautiful and you can just be looking out on the water and processing all those things, rather than just hopping in a car, driving to your next thing. And then later that night going, oh, what did we talk about? It was like immediate. And it was almost as therapeutic for me to unhash everything.
Have that space right afterwards just to kind of recap everything and look it over and try and and that is also really important, just being able to have a space where it's safe to go over what you've been going through, what that means, what the things the counselor said, what they mean to you. Yeah.
And people now with the new technology and everything, I don't think people journal as much, but journaling is so good. And I remember we had somebody on the show and they were so afraid to write anything down and have it found. So they talked about putting it in a safe. And I know that for some people, journaling is scary because a partner or someone may find it. But if you can do it in a safe way, getting it out of your head is so powerful.
Yes. And one of the ways, if you want to do it anonymously, and you can go to Male Survivor, you can go on their page and just write your story. It could be anonymous. No one will ever know it was you. You can write your story down and leave it there. And then if you want to write some more, you can go there, do it completely anonymously, and no one will ever know it was you if you don't tell them.
Is that how you started? Is that how you finally?
I have done stuff on Male Survivor, but no, I journaled a lot when I was going through therapy, and it was difficult at times because I wanted it to be private, and it was hard because at that time I was married. It was before I got divorced, and it felt like I was hiding something from my wife, but it was really something I didn't want to share with anyone else. It was, I had to feel like I could write anything without
judgment.
Worrying, without judgment, without worrying about anyone seeing it. And so journaling is really good outlet. That's another, that's actually was one of my outlets. Now that I think about it, that was one of the other outlets was journaling.
Yeah, I wrote every day, even if it was just a line. And I think sometimes people get caught up in, I've got to tell every detail. No, you can just say, had therapy today, it sucked. But it's, it's getting in the habit of doing it. And a lot of people also say, well, I don't want it because I don't need to look back. It's not really about looking back. It's about processing. There's a Julia Cameron, she wrote the book, The Artist's Way, and she said she's a big advocate of journaling. And she said, even if you write blah, 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 yeah, for the first page, pretty soon some things will start to come to you. So if you sit down and you're like, I can't write, just write blah, blah, blah. I love my microphone. I love playing games on the computer. Just start writing whatever comes to your mind. And then the free flow will start if you give yourself a chance. Because, there's that part of us that's also protective and still doesn't want to let it out as much as we're trying to heal. Don't you feel like there's that place where we're still trying to protect, but we're trying to let go, but we're kind of in that transition place?
Yeah. Well, and a lot of it was discovery for me because I never explored those areas of my life before. I never went there, and allowing myself to just write down what was going on and what I was feeling, the things that happened and what they made me feel, how they made me feel, all that stuff I had never really explored. And I think that's why journaling is so important. Like you said, it's not about keeping a record and going back and looking at. It's a way of exploring what you're feeling at the moment. And when you put in words, it becomes more real in your head. It becomes all of a sudden it's really a thing rather than bouncing around inside you.
Exactly. It begins to make sense, and then we can file it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I know for me, I would start writing about something. Like I thought a certain way about something. And when I started writing, I'd be like, oh, wait a minute, this doesn't align. And then I would start to recognize I was just protecting someone, or I was parroting something someone said that wasn't necessarily true. And so it helped me really get in touch with what thoughts are mine.
Yeah.
What's really mine?
I think we don't always know what's on our mind. We don't always pay attention. I mean, and when you actually pay attention, then you start realizing some of this stuff doesn't make sense.
Right.
Some of this stuff really doesn't align with me. Why am I thinking or feeling this?
Yeah. And that self-talk, I always remember when I recognized what it was. I was out feeding horses, and it was before the day of automatic fobs, and I had left my dog in the car with the car unlocked. Well, my dog was so happy to see me on both sides of the car that he put his paws up and locked all the doors, and I had left the keys in. I was just berating myself. You're so stupid. You're always doing. And all of a sudden I recognized, I started laughing because I'm in the middle of nowhere. I'm going to have to walk 3 miles. And leave my dog in the hot car. But I recognize, no, I don't always do really stupid things. That was really, I wasn't thinking that was stupid, but I don't always. And so I started to pay attention to the things I was saying to myself. And I was repeating probably parental things. You're so stupid. You're always breaking everything, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. But then it becomes, and so we say it inside, but then when we say it out loud, we go, wait a minute, that's not true. And then we can begin to tell ourselves the truth. And then that changes our worthiness. Because if we're not just horrible and doing everything wrong all the time, we might have value.
Yeah, well, and we might be having these feelings and thoughts about ourselves without really paying attention to them. And it's easy. But once you start paying attention to them, then you go, where'd that come from? Why is that? Why do I feel that way or say that about myself? If it's not really true, if it's not always true, if I only do, this has never happened before and I could never have expected this, but now I'm just beating myself up about it when really it was just an accident.
Yeah.
And so.
And as we do it, as we pay attention. So this week I had something happen. I had to overnight something. My family had gone out of town and they forgot some important medicine. And so I had to overnight it. And it was like $25 and it would be there the next day, or $100. And it would guarantee be there the next day. I said, so either way, it'll be there the next day. She goes, yeah. I go, what would you do? She goes, I'd pay the 24. So I paid the 24, but this is important medicine. Yeah. And it didn't arrive the next day. It was 2 days out. And normally I would be like, oh, I should have. I just would be like feeling bad. And I would probably drive to work and feel bad, not even understand that I was berating myself. And I just went, you know what? I did the best thing I could at the time. I'm so sorry it didn't show up, but I can't undo it now. And even she said, yeah, it'll be there. And so I recognize that I'm starting to change that, because I know before I would have just been in anxiety and felt bad. They didn't get their medicine. I failed them. I let them down. And I was able to go, oh no, I did everything I could. It's unfortunate, but I don't have to take ownership of this. And because they certainly weren't berating me. They weren't saying you should have, they were like, oh man, it's not here. And so when we begin to pay attention, you keep saying that, when we begin to pay attention to what we're saying to ourselves and changing it, we don't have to totally flip it. We don't have to go, I'm an idiot, to I'm the most awesome person in the world, but we can find a happy medium that's true.
Yeah, but we can't until we pay attention to what we are saying about ourselves, what we are, where our feelings are coming from. So I think having outlets like journaling, music, art, dance, all those things are just channels to what's inside of us.
Mm-hmm.
And the more channels we get to what's inside of us, the more we get to find what's inside of us, we can sort through it and find the things that we want to hang on to and the ones we don't want to hang on to.
Mm-hmm.
Like me with the disturbing, twisted movies. At the time they served me, I really got a lot out of them, but I don't need to go through that anymore. I don't need that. And it doesn't serve me like it used to. So that's one of those channels that brought me to an emotional part of myself. But that I kind of got through that. And now that's not a big part of me anymore that helps me anymore.
Yeah. And the fact that you recognize that, like, it's easy to make things a habit, but then you're like, yeah, it's not doing it for me. And then you move on. I mean, that just shows, signs of healing.
Yeah. Moving on and getting through things.
Mm-hmm.
But it really helps to have these channels, to have these outlets. And so I think paying attention to what really opens you up to those emotions inside of you. And even, I know for me, journaling didn't seem at first to be really helpful, but the more I did it, the more I found ways to basically, I had to get to a point where I felt like it didn't matter what I said because no one else was going to read it. So I could say whatever I wanted. And then when I started saying whatever I wanted, whatever came up, and then those thoughts were more defined, then I can see and feel and experience them and understand them.
Yeah, that's so good. Well, I don't know how it is for men, but I know with women often they don't do the things they love that bring them joy because they kind of don't remember, like moms. They get so caught up in doing everything for the family. And so I always give my clients an assignment to write down 20 things they love. And God, family, wife, husband, mom, forget that. That's a given. Start with the beach, rocks, walking, I challenge you to make that list because often it's easy to forget that there's a lot of little things that do bring joy.
Yeah.
And for me, it's the beach. I grew up on the beach and I'm very fortunate. I live pretty close to a beach. And if I'm having a day, if I'm going through something, I just drive down, even if I don't get out of my car, sitting at the beach, even for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Because now I know how much that centers me. It can make all the difference. And I can be like, okay, now I can move on. Or I could just sit home and think about the beach. But, a lot of times the things that we really love aren't things that are going to cost us a ton of money. They're not things that are going to break the bank or take us away for 3 days. There might be some big things, but, getting back in touch with what we love, what makes us happy, what brings us joy, because it's really easy. And especially for trauma survivors too, because we feel so unworthy. Well, I can't take 5 minutes to go to the beach because somebody might need something or, somebody maybe forgot lunch at school. And, it's a constant putting everyone else first. And then we get resentful.
Yeah, because we never take care of our own needs, our own wants. Well, yeah, I'm very thankful that I learned, and that was part of the process too, was learning what mattered to me and why, and the things that did bring me healing, bring me joy, bring me that just recharged me, and those things still do.
Yeah.
And it's amazing that how much I get from listening to some songs or going for a bike ride down at the beach.
And even like with art, a lot of times people are like, well, I'm not going to do art because what am I going to do? I can't display it. Well, it's doing it. Maybe you just put it back in the closet, but getting out the paints or getting out the pencils, it's like thinking about just doing it versus what am I going to do with it?
Yeah. And for me, it's exploring other people, the art that I enjoy, and looking for other art that has that effect on me, because I've always loved art and certain types of art, and have always been inspired by it. And just finding the things that give you that uplift.
Yeah, because it's easy to just like scroll and shop. I do a lot of, I get all this show prep for my radio show about surveys, and there's a name for it, blind scrolling, I think, where people are they're checking out. They need to check out. So they're just shopping. They're just blind shopping rather than going and looking at art or riding a bike or listening to some music they love. They're scrolling and they're filling themselves up with things that aren't necessarily bringing them joy, but they're letting them check out and be distracted. So it's actually, they think, oh, I'm giving myself time, but it's an avoidance because they're just scrolling rather than doing something that really does matter and make a difference.
It just occupies your attention, and it seems to be distracting. It seems to be interesting. It seems to be you're doing this because it's interesting, but after a while, you're just distracted, and that's it. It's just taking your attention. But you're not getting to why you want to be distracted.
Exactly.
I think a lot of us would rather just be distracted than focus on anything that matters to us.
Well, yeah, it's like running when, for me, every situation, I was just like, I want to run from it. I don't want to sit in it. And so I'm learning to just sit in it, and I don't like it very well, but if I sit in it, guess what? It goes away. So like if I get upset, I don't know, say something happens at work and I'm upset, and then I'm just like, oh, I got to move on. And I go, no, I was upset because I missed a spot or whatever I did. And then I'm like, okay, I can make it up. I can turn this around. Like, rather than just blowing it off, I can sit with it and go, oh, it wasn't the end of the world. Because I think sometimes as a survivor, I feel like anything I do affects everybody and I've let everybody down and the world's going to end. And so I found that I had all this anxiety. And when I started to, we talked about a few weeks ago when I went through something and I felt judged, and I wanted to mostly call your wife because I knew she'd be like, I'm going to beat them up. But I sat with it and I realized that I still wasn't happy with what happened, but I didn't beat myself up over it. And I made some bigger decisions because of it. And so now when something happens, I'm like, hey, that kind of works. So I always wanted to flee, fight or flight. And now I'm like, oh, I don't have to fight or flight. I can be like, take a deep breath. Admit it. Like sometimes you don't want to admit it was your own fault. I pushed the wrong button, whatever, and so for me,
Deal with it. Yeah.
That's just been really powerful, and I like it. I'm glad I discovered that.
Yeah.
Took me a few years.
Don't always run. Sometimes it's better to stick it out.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think scrolling is another way of just running away from stuff.
Sure.
Because you're distracted, taking your attention, but it's taking your attention away from what you're actually going through.
Right. The problem that's looking for a solution.
Yeah. So instead you just put it off. But what happens is you just keep putting it off. But if you find that outlet, that thing that connects you to what you're going through, then you can process it. You can go through it and process it. And that's where you grow. For me, just knowing that those outlets were there and they're still a part of me, they're still part of my process, is huge, because without them, I think it would have taken me a lot longer to get through this.
Yeah. Isn't it great that you can think about art and, arts and music and all of that it can be a healing power?
Yeah. Yeah. Some art, looking at the art will bring up the emotions inside me. And then you'll have that connection and you could start wondering where those emotions are coming from.
And I think it stirs our creativity. And when we're in survival or fight or flight, all the creative juices are shut down and we don't maybe get the ideas. And so when we can just enjoy music, enjoy art, enjoy nature, for some people, it's the ocean, whatever it is.
A big one.
Yeah. Then we can let go and we can be creative again. And that's what we were created for, was being creative.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what's your favorite song right now?
Wow. I have a hard time listing favorites because I listen to so much music and so much different music. It varies
So
all the
it's like
time.
if you're in a mood, you'll be like, I am in a mood today. I feel like this song.
Yeah. So let's see. There's music that I like to listen to when I'm taking a bath. There's music I like to listen to when I'm driving my car. There's music I like to, I have this whole variety of things that
You have a
really,
playlist for everything.
yeah, I do.
My cooking playlist and my
I've listened to so much music my whole life. So yeah, I can't list favorites very easily because I have so many. I can't exclude anything. But today I was listening to, let's see, Susie and the Banshees while I was driving, and then after that I was listening to I heard Charnel was playing this radio station, and I heard a Grateful Dead song that I haven't heard in a long time, and they were talking about how this album is 50 years old right now, and I went, oh my gosh. And I still connect to it. So I listened to the whole album.
Yeah. I know, you think about it, these bands, Kiss and Bon Jovi, and they're all pushing 30, 40, 50 years of music, and they're still going strong, and I love it. I love it.
Well, and they're still a big part of what matters to me. Some of these songs, they affected me so much when I was young, and they still have that effect, and they still remind me of how much they mattered to me. So, yeah, I listen to a lot of music.
So write a list of 20 things you love.
20 things you love.
And then try to do something, I would say every day, one little thing every day, or at least something a week to get yourself back in touch with what you love and what brings you joy.
Yeah, what you connect to, what really you really connect to, and allow yourself to just dive into that connection, to allow it to affect you, to bring up stuff, because there's a reason why you're connected to it. There's a reason why you're so drawn to it.
Right. And because everyone's different. Yeah. Something that would really connect, so we could look and go, oh, well, so-and-so did that. It's like, no, you got to find what stirs your own heart.
Yeah, and you'll know just by finding what is it that brings you joy, and just keep going there.
Yeah. I know. I remember hearing all those Calgon commercials, and I'm like, taking a bath doesn't do it for me. And I always thought, again, what's wrong with me? Everyone's like, oh, that's self-care, taking a bath. I'm like, taking a bath for me when you have 3 kids and you're a single mom, not fun.
Yeah.
Ever.
You just don't have the time or
the privacy. The minute you get in the tub, they start knocking. So I always thought, God, there's something wrong with me, but I found the things that worked for me. So this is the time we wrap up and say a prayer, unless you have something else to add to that.
No, that was my what I was thinking about today, because I think it was triggered by that Grateful Dead song. And hearing it and then thinking about how it's 50 years old, and I've probably been listening to it ever since it came out, and how much it affected me. And it's like, those things do matter.
And they last.
Yeah, so that's it for today.
We are going to have a prayer time if you want to stick with us. If not, we believe in you.
We want to hear from you. We want to hear your stories.
If you like this podcast, please rate and review, because that's how other people can find us. And we really want to spread this message.
Father, I just thank you for all your blessings, especially for those gifts you've given us that we might not even be aware of, but that really matter and that really connect us to you. Lord, I just pray for anyone listening that they would feel a connection to something in their lives that brings them joy, that brings them light in their lives. And Lord, I just pray that you would guide them to those things that they can do, that they can find, that will bring them that connection to you, Lord, and to themselves, that their sense of self, Lord. And I just pray that those connections would open up for them, and they would serve them to help them heal and to help them find regain that joy in their lives, Lord. In your name I pray.
Father, I thank you for music and art and how it does affect us. And And I think about times when we're really struggling and a song will come on or we'll see something, or like Kevin saw those Christmas lights, and that just a reminder of who you are and that you're always around us. And so often as a survivor, it's easy to feel alone and forgotten. And I just pray that you'll help us to open our eyes and be aware of all the beauty that you created around us with nature, today Kevin said it was such a beautiful sunny day, all the things that represent life, and that we might be able to just stop for a moment and enjoy those amazing things that people create, that you create, and, recognize that it is life and it's what gives us life. But thank you so much that we do heal in your son's name. Amen.
Amen.